Welcome, we are back with another episode of Zero to Hero, Healer Edition. Right, I think it's time. We've been in limbo now for a few episodes, sticking to our comfort zone, doing 6s and 7s. If we're going to improve, we gotta dig deeper, so the goal today is to start pushing 10s. Can we do it? Let's find out. So, I finally got enough gold to enchant my gear, but now this means I'm broke. So, I have to go back to digital slavery.
Make me the perfect miner, cleaver straight from the core. Callous fists, crystal born, harder than the angler's horn.
In the meantime though, we did pick up our Mr. Pickup trinket and maxed it out, so now we are going into our dungeons looking like this. I know I said I wasn't doing 7s anymore, but come on, this is just a warm-up key. After this, I promise we will go higher. While this amazing healing gameplay is going on in the background, we might as well talk about what's next. We have two options, either continue to 3k, or finish up this character and move on to the next one. Leave a comment, let me know which one you prefer, and in the next video, we would choose the winner. The first area went smooth as usual, but for some reason on this pack after the first boss, I just struggle so much. Going into the fight, everyone is always super low due to fall damage. I never have enough time to top everyone up before we start the fight. So we go in, and before I know it, I'm basically already dead. And even when I get back, it's the same thing. I tried to stabilize, but just get blasted in a matter of seconds.
What the fuck?
I know I didn't press any of my defensives, but I just never thought I'd get blasted so fast. The tank lived anyway, so we didn't fully wipe, but it's just strange because this next pack is way easier to heal. I don't know if it's just because I'm expecting more damage, so I'm more focused, or the fact that I'm just not being targeted by every ability all at once. There's also instances where the mob I'm targeting dies and he doesn't automatically switch me to the next one. I'm used to playing melee, so this is kind of new to me. The next boss went fine and we had plenty of time going into the next area. I also learned that the debuff that the Ascendant puts out is a heal absorb, so as long as I'm pumping just before it goes out, I don't need to be worried about mass dispelling. I can just keep throwing my abilities and hoping for the best. But there is situations like this where it gets a little overwhelming, and I die. We still had plenty of time going into the final boss, and I was also starting to understand this boss more too. I do have trouble getting my atonement on everyone, but that's partly due to them stood way too far away. We still 2-chested the dungeon without any problems, and I even got a trinket, which I thought was an upgrade, but my teammate decided otherwise, and before I knew it, I was getting hunted down with pitchforks. They apologized though, and I gave him the trinket. We also ended up running another dungeon together, and to be honest, for a 9, it was really easy to heal. This was the only death we had the whole dungeon. I didn't realize my tank ran out of buttons, and instead of hitting him with a paint up and focusing my heals on him, instead I watched him die and ran away like a little bitch. I don't know about you guys, but coming from being a tank main, I just assumed the tank never needs me. Yeah, I will throw them a paint up and a shield at the start of a pull, but once they're settled in, I won't really bother with them. I'll throw them a shield just before a tank buster, or if I remember that I have that ability. But in my eyes, tanks like VDH and Blood DK don't really need a healer. Obviously, once we get to the higher keys, they will need some attention, but in these lower ones, they should be fine. This group was good, so we easily timed this key. I also felt more confident healing these higher keys, so we threw ourselves into the deep end for 9 Cinderbrew. Alright, let's go. I absolutely hate this dungeon, but we're doing it. This dungeon went from 100 to 0 really fast. The first area we didn't really struggle with. Yeah, I still have no clue what to do during the intermission, but no one died and we cleaned out the first boss. Then we got to this part. The Africs came in, and instead of using my mass dispel, I got greedy and wanted to save it for the next pack. But before I knew it, I was getting blasted down and I died. I sat there waiting for a battle res, but it never came, so we eventually wiped. The pack also didn't reset. We tried to stabilize it, but with enemies coming from every angle, it was pretty much impossible. Don't run in if you can't survive it and I'm not there, mate. Okay? In this next clip, I'll just let it play out, because I seriously think there was nothing I could have done. Jesus Christ. Okay, now. No one person interrupted Holy shit. This next clip also goes back to what I was saying before. I just don't expect my tank to instantly die when going into the next area. I know the final sting mechanic is coming out, but I just assume he's going to be fine. I also kind of messed up myself by not using a shield on him before my penance, so he died. The B boss was insanely hard to heal. My whole screen was just a sea of red. In the past, I would have just been standing there thinking of what button to press, but not this time. We was dishing out them heals like I was Oprah. You get a heal, you get a heal, everybody gets a heal. It's a shame though, because even after we recovered, we still had a long way to go. And towards the end of the fight, I just had too many bleeds on myself and got blown straight into the Shadow Realm. Despite dying so many times, we were still able to time this key with just under 3 minutes to spare. And we kept that momentum going into a 9 Rookery. In the next episode, I do want to do a tier list of which dungeons I thought were hardest to heal. But for now, let's just stick to this one. The first area is rough, but that's not where I struggle. Fighting these damn diffusers is where I struggle. I know there's certain spots where I can line of sight abilities, but because my tank always races ahead, by the time I get there and plant up, the suck mechanic is already wreaking havoc on my entire group. Luckily this time though, I saved my PI, so I had a bit of haste to quickly get my abilities out. So getting through the initial part of the fight, I felt more confident as I settled in. Hell, I even started throwing out abilities I don't normally use, such as Flash Shield and Barrier. The double diffusers however, didn't go that great. Towards the end of the fight, I again lost focus on my tank's health. Before I knew it, he was 6 feet under. But with a swift battle res, we was able to recover the pack. But sadly, my druid did a runner and line of sighted me. And because I was in panic mode and trying to recover the pack, I wasn't throwing out any damage or heals, so I eventually dropped as well. We didn't fully wipe and the rest of the dungeon was smooth. But screw them damn diffusers, man. They're impossible to heal. But now that we've timed a few 9s, we finally have a decent IO rating. And it was time to join the big leagues and finally try to heal some 10s. But before we get all excited, I still do my routine eye level check. And once I saw my tank was 684, I just knew this was going to be an easy run. And honestly, it was insanely easy to heal. Hell, I even said it out loud after beating the second boss. So far so good, no one's died. But of course, that put a curse on me. So immediately into the next pack, Stevie Wonder decided to pay me a visit, and before I knew it, I was dead. The only other deaths that happened was due to people not playing Mario Kart when they were younger. If you see a bomb, you run. Otherwise, this happens.
Here we go!
Like I said, the tank was so heavily overgeared that the only hard part about this dungeon was realizing that the rest of my journey was never going to be this easy. So yeah, we easily free chested the 10 Motherload. We got no loot, but I guess we got some experience into how 10s can be. But let's not stop there, we've got all the other dungeons to plus 10, and there's no better dungeon than the one I've been struggling with the most, a 10 Rookery. This group wasn't heavily overgeared, they was all around 660 eye level, so I knew my healing had to be on point, and honestly, I felt a massive difference in this key. Once the localized storm mechanic came out, I felt what true damage was like. Before I even got a chance to think, my maid was already looking at us from above. I was better prepared in the next pack though, making sure I use a big button to keep everyone alive. Well, not that guy. I can heal damage, but I can't heal stupidity. Don't get hit by the giant thunder, dude. And then we got to my worst nightmare. Or so I thought. Turns out someone butt pulled on the way down, so all the panic about the next area went away. We did end up losing our tank in this pull, but because the respawn point is so close, it wasn't even a big deal. We didn't fully wipe, and this meant everyone was full health going into the next pack, so we cleaned it out with no casualties. What I have noticed a big difference in is how long packs live for. Because everyone isn't insanely overgeared, the dungeon takes a little bit longer to clear. Hell, even the bosses that normally go down fast were taking a lot longer to kill. This meant there was also more chances to mess up, which is exactly what happened. I got the debuff on me, passed it on, and instead of my teammate taking the buff off of the other dude, instead he ran away, leaving me to take 2 stacks of the buff. And again, not being swift with my reaction, I was dead before I even knew I was in danger. Because we was taking so long to clear this dungeon, we only had 9 minutes going to the final area. Our tank wasn't doing us any favours either by overpulling. I also had a misplay on the final pack before the boss. I didn't pop a defensive, so I slowly died. This may not seem like a big deal, but these little misplays soak up a lot of time, especially when you're on a time crunch. Having 4 minutes on the clock going into the final boss, I felt like we had this one in the bag. It's not insanely hard to heal, and I had good positioning, so my atonement was hitting most of my teammates. The pools were being dropped in the right places, and we was handling mechanics with no problems. And then my tank did the unthinkable. That motherfucker walked straight off the map. I noticed it at the time, but not being talented into grip, our chances of timing this key went from 100 to 0 in a matter of seconds. You could be angry at this, or you could just choose to laugh it off.
How do you fall in? How does that happen? You fall in.
Even though we didn't time this key, the confidence is now there to keep going. So in the next episode, we will time every dungeon on a 10. Remember to leave a comment about what you want to see next. And as always, if you like the content, subscribe. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.